Aaliyah Denise. Aaliyah had so much hair, which fully explains my intense heartburn for months. One of the first things, or the first thing her father said was, "Oh my gosh, she has so much hair." It was unbelievable.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us, a place where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter.
And I'm Lee. We are grateful you joined us today. Please note that this is a story of loss and has triggers.
Thanks to our lost parents who are willing to be vulnerable and share their children with us.
If you're listening to this podcast, just know that on our YouTube channel there are pictures and videos that are related to the stories that are being shared.
Subscribe and share it with a friend that might need it and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us. Liz, we are so excited for you to come on and chat with us about Aaliyah. Thank you so much for your time today and for coming to tell her story.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm also just so happy that you do this for families and offer this opportunity.
Oh, yeah, it is our pleasure. It is our pleasure. So, Liz, as we get started, I love to talk to people and just ask them where they're from, what they're doing, who they are, just kind of some general things about what your family looks like right now. So tell us who you are and where you guys are kind of based out of. You don't have to give us the exact area, like exact city or anything like that, but yeah, tell us what you do.
Well, I'm originally from Jersey, so I'm a true Jersey girl. I moved to Washington, D.C. for college, and I never left. I went to school for elementary education, and prior to losing Aaliyah, I was in the classroom for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
I've since transitioned out of the classroom and into stillbirth advocacy full time. So that's kind of a little bit about me. I'm an only child, so it's just me. And I have a very close relationship with my mom, and she's been such a huge rock through this whole experience.
Yeah, I'm sure. Is she still in Jersey then too?
She is,
Okay.
but I visit her often. And Aaliyah's father is born and raised DC. He's a firefighter here in the city.
Awesome. So he was the one that kind of kept you here, it sounds like.
Exactly. For now, we think.
For now, okay. And what grades were you teaching for, or was it all of them, or did you have a focus?
I skipped around a little bit. Second and first were my absolute favorite, but my whole teaching career, I only taught math and science.
Oh,
Really enjoyed. It really allowed me to personalize things for students that either struggled or needed more challenge. I really enjoyed it, and I miss it dearly.
yeah.
But
We need,
life changes, as you know.
yeah, I was like, oh, we need more math and science teachers. So I think that's awesome that that's the area that you were in. So very cool. Very cool. And what do you and your partner like to do in your spare time? Like what are some hobbies and such that you guys like to do?
We're a big TV people. So
What are you binging right now, I guess?
watching different series for sure. It's hard. Firefighters have a very demanding job, and we currently don't live together. So it's hard to find that time, but we do our best. And we also love really good food.
Oh, excellent. This sounds
So we're
great.
big foodies. And we also enjoy the occasional tequila tasting. It's kind of
Oh,
like one of our things as well.
oh, you have a very specific alcohol that you like.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good deal. That sounds great. And I feel like the DC area is not bad for the foodie scene, actually.
Exactly. And I also actually have an Instagram at DC Bar Scene. And so I've been doing that for years and years. And so I feature a lot of the restaurants and what they
Cool.
offer. And I definitely, took a hit with COVID, but now that events are happening again,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel more comfortable going out after Aaliyah, that's been nice to kind of get back into that
Yeah.
foodie scene here in the
Yeah.
city.
Well, good deal. I'm glad. I know it is nice having that. So, as we are kind of as you kind of have actually implied is that we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, maybe we're on the tail end of things. I'm not totally sure. We don't know. So as to give us a little bit of a time frame so everybody knows, when was Aaliyah born approximately? At
So
the
she
time of
was
this, and also at the time of this recording, how long ago was it?
so she was born on December 1st, 2020, and now it's August of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
We are, coming up on 2 years this December, which I really haven't thought about it yet, to be honest. I don't know if I'm ready to think about it yet, but that 2 years, it seems like a really long time. And yet it also feels like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's interesting the way time moves after experiencing a trauma like this.
Yeah. Almost. So it's been about 18 months since she passed away, at least at the time of this recording. I want to
Yeah.
point out also that it was in 2020, the end of 2020. And so that's like right in the middle of the pandemic. So I think we're going to be bringing
Yeah,
up some things about that during your experience as well. So,
absolutely.
yeah. Okay. So tell me then, were you guys planning on getting pregnant? Was that something that was on your radar or tell me
No.
about it? No.
So
Okay.
I had a procedure done when I was 18 or 19. And after that procedure, they had told me that it would be really hard for me to get pregnant and that further down the line, I would probably, need to do IVF or something. So when I took a test and it came up positive, I was shocked. He was shocked. My mom was shocked. Everybody was shocked and definitely unexpected, but certainly welcome.
Oh, that's awesome. So yes, it is always shocking when you're not planning on it or even think
Yeah.
that you're not able to without.
Especially thinking, wait, I thought that this would not be happening this
Mm,
easily.
yeah.
That was a lot to take in at once
Mhm.
too. Aside from finding out I was pregnant, it was also like, wait, all these years I had it in my mind that this would be challenging.
Right.
Yet it seemed to happen, you know, without too much thought and process going through it. So that was interesting.
Yes.
Interesting
For
there.
sure. For sure. Okay, so you guys were shocked, also excited. Have you always wanted to be a mom? Is that something that you've kind of really like, okay, I'm going to have to do IVF. It's fine. I'll just do it. I want to have a family.
Yeah, I'll be honest, being told way back then that it would be challenging, I I feel like I didn't desire it as much as other
Mm.
people did because I always thought that I'll probably be disappointed. Yes, I always wanted to be a mom. Being an elementary teacher, you already are a mom to
Mhm.
dozens of
Yeah.
children over the years. So, yes, absolutely always wanted to be a mom. I think I just never put it at the forefront of my mind because I was always so concerned that there would be issues or it would be challenging. So I
Yeah.
was definitely excited and I had wanted a girl so bad. So
Oh, okay. You wanted a girl and so when you okay, you probably took a home pregnancy test and it came up positive. Did you
Right.
go into the doctor? Did you kind of get checked out pretty quickly because of the fact that you had this procedure a while back and how did that look in the first early days, I guess?
Yeah, so I didn't know what to do. I immediately called my best friend who had just had her daughter that January. So I found out beginning of June 2020.
Mhm.
Um, and she had had her daughter January. So I called her. She was the one that actually encouraged me to take the test. I was
Hmm.
just thinking maybe my body's changing with COVID and the stress and blah, blah, blah. So when I called the doctor, they couldn't schedule me for a few weeks.
Mhm.
And then by the time they scheduled me, took my blood and everything, they figured out I was actually more more along than I thought I was.
Oh.
So, yeah. So, by mid-July, actually by end of July, we knew that we were having a girl, and everything checked out fine. When you as a first-time mom, you're presented with, "Do you wanna do this test? Do you wanna do that test?" And I
Mhm.
said yes to everything.
Okay.
I didn't know what to expect, and thankfully, I had checked with insurance, so I would have done it regardless of insurance, but checked and I knew insurance would be able to cover these additional tests, so made sure we got everything done and everything checked out fine.
Great. So, like, I'm assuming it was like genetic tests and
Yeah.
making sure, kind of ruling out, trisomy, like all of these
Yes.
other
Yep.
things that could possibly happen.
Yes. And then and I forgive me, the names of these tests are escaping me, but there's also a whole nother set of tests that you can do that aren't typically
Yeah.
done.
Yes.
And I was like, yes, just add them on. Like, I want to make sure that everything is good. And according to them, and everything was good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And then
and very easy pregnancy too.
so
I was never sick, not
really,
once. I did not gain a lot of weight. I was
hmm
kind of nervous that I would because I was craving like just chocolate and salt all the time,
hmm
but I didn't, which was good. And I just, made sure to always work out. I started to do bar classes, drank a lot of water. Pregnancy for me was honestly a dream
you're
until
one
it
of,
was.
I was going to say, you're one of those pregnancy unicorns that they talk about where
Yeah.
it was,
I
it
honestly,
was really,
honestly was. I was tired, but
hmm
it was manageable because I was teaching from home,
hmm
right? Like we weren't back in the classroom because of COVID. So that was helpful. I could sneak in a nap here and there,
hmm
but I still wanted to go, hang out with friends if we did something, small, just a few people. So it was for me, yeah, it felt like I was a unicorn during that time for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. You mentioned that you found out in about July-ish that you were having a girl. Was that due to the genetic testing? Because I know that they can test that kind of early on. Or was it due to the 20-week scan or the
It
body
was it
anatomy
was the
scan?
blood test, the
It was.
genetic
Okay.
testing. Yes.
Were you what were you planning on finding out that
Yes, I
early?
wanted to know.
Okay.
So, my mom was coming down to visit that weekend, and
Mhm.
I had just gotten the paperwork. So I brought it to a bakery and I had cupcakes made. And then when my mom came and visited, I got balloons and I decorated her hotel room in all girl stuff.
Oh.
And then with Aaliyah's father, I had him, well, and actually, this was the evening before because I didn't even know. We took a bite of the cupcakes at the same time and we were both like, we had thought that she was a boy the whole time.
Oh,
I wanted a girl,
of
but I
course.
felt like she was a boy. He felt like she was a boy, and all of our friends and family mostly
Mhm.
also thought that. So we were shocked with mouthful of cupcakes, shocked to see the pink on the inside. And
Yeah.
then the next day, my mom came down and we were able to celebrate with her.
I'm sure she was ecstatic.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, who else am I thought at that time, who else am I going to give my handbag collection to, all
Yeah.
my makeup and stuff? So we were both super psyched at that time.
You gotta think
For sure.
about those things. I
Exactly.
love that. Okay, and then when you guys were you able to I'm assuming you were able to go in for the 20-week anatomy scan.
Yes.
How did that look?
So the 20-week scan, I was told from the beginning that she was big.
Mm,
Big, she's big, she's big. I'm 5'10". He's about 6'3", 6'4". We're tall, athletic built
r
people. So for us, it made sense.
completely.
Yeah, and the concern the medical practice I went to, I was using the midwives,
Mhm.
but when you have a big baby, and I'm saying big because that's the terminology that was used with me.
Okay.
Having a big baby, the OBs also have to be involved in your care plan in case you need a C-section, whatever.
Gotcha.
My original plan was to go completely, unmedicated the whole
Mm,
time. We had a doula who's still very close to us today, kind of helping us form plans. And, to me at that point in time, it was very important that I try to do this unmedicated. And I was a little nervous because they kept saying, she's big, she's big. But I was still, ready for it. And
mhm.
again, not concerned about her being big because we are not tiny,
Mhm.
short people.
Yes.
So to me, it just meant that, yeah, she's built like her parents, which was not shocking to me.
Yeah. Was there any discussion, I'm assuming, with the OBs about potential C-section then? Was that something that you're like, "Okay, we might have to go that route?"
Yes, I will be very honest. My experience with the OBs, I did not enjoy.
Mm,
I felt, and at the time, Aaliyah's father could not come into every
right.
appointment because of COVID.
Yes.
The few that I left, I guess it was actually two that I left, one of which he was there. I just felt like the OBs were not making fun of Aaliyah, but just always pointing out her size
Mm,
and how that would be a problem and how I have to be ready for that. And maybe the midwives won't be the best way to go because she's so big. And I just didn't like the way that I was being spoken to.
mm.
And I shared that with, Aaliyah's father and, my own parents. So it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth
Yeah.
for especially further down the line when ended up happening, what happened. Just having to deal with OBs. I realized that that is certainly not the case everywhere and
Yeah.
not all doctors, speak like that to patients. But in that time, I felt just like it was rude.
Yeah.
And I didn't care for that.
Gotcha.
So,
But it sounds like the midwives were taking good care of you. Like,
yeah, I had a really great experience with them. There are things that I've learned since Aaliyah's passing where I see gaps in
mm,
care, which I'm
hmm,
sure we'll get to. But I thought that I was at that time receiving what I thought was the best care.
okay.
And I still think is high quality care for 99% of people.
Mm, okay. And I just want to clarify that at the 20-week scan, everything looked good. She was kind of just registering big.
Fine.
Okay.
Yep. She was moving. They said, oh, she has really long femurs.
Hmm.
So,
You're like, she's going to be tall. That's all there is
yeah,
to it.
exactly. She was going to be tall, whatever. Everything else looked fine. I had, why am I blanking on it? The gestational diabetes test.
Mm, okay.
I was so worried, so concerned. My levels were so low. It
Yeah.
was fine.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah. So I feel like, being first time pregnant, new mom, you're just worried about everything.
Yep.
And every time I was worried about something, it was immediately my worry went away because at that time, everything was fine.
Yeah. And did you guys decide on her name that early? Like when you found out that you were having a girl, or was that just like, okay, let's start a list now, and we've got got a few names to toss around?
No, so we actually no, we had not even a list. I was very adamant about naming her after his mom, who
Mm.
passed away when he was a teenager. Her Leah's middle name is his mother's middle
Oh,
name.
okay. Okay.
So we compromised with that. I have always loved the name Aaliyah, but I was always concerned that people would only associate it with the R&B singer.
Uh huh.
So, which coincidentally is actually the easiest way for me to explain to people how to
Mm-hmm.
say her name.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
It works
fine
out.
because I love Aaliyah the singer and Aaliyah my daughter. But when we were in the hospital and, she hadn't been born yet, but, I was like, oh my, in addition to this trauma, now we also have to settle on a
Mm,
name. Aaliyah actually means rising and
mm,
exalted one in Hebrew. So it fit. I'm happy that I didn't share that name with anyone until I had her.
yeah,
I wish it was under different circumstances, but
completely.
I find it, and I actually sometimes struggle with this. I just find it so interesting that I was so set on that name for months and months. And then and I didn't know what it meant. I just loved the name. And then to have this experience happen, and then her father looked up the name and he was like, do you know what this means? And it means, yeah, exalted rising one. I said, no, but I think that pretty much tells us what we need to name her.
Exactly. That basically sealed the deal. Like that is so
That it
beautiful.
did.
It's so
Yes.
beautiful. So you're going along and everything looks good at the 20 weeks. Yeah, let kind of to walk me through the rest of your pregnancy until you guys found out something was not quite right.
Yeah. So early November, I had my baby shower.
Mm-hmm.
I will take any chance I get to talk about my baby shower. It was extremely over the
Was
top,
it?
exactly how I wanted it. I am very upfront and honest with people when I say I'm not 100% sure marriage is for me. And if it is, I'm not going to be like a princess bride. I'm just going to get married and then just tell people after the fact.
Yeah.
So I wanted this baby shower to be, just one of those princess bride moments, but for a baby shower. And I
Yeah.
was able to achieve that despite it being COVID.
COVID.
We had the baby shower at District Winery, which is a local place here in the city that I love. and it was outdoors. It was beautiful. Second week of November, and the weather was, people were wearing sandals.
Oh,
It was warm, the
ah,
sun shining, and it was beautiful. My best friend, her sister, her mom, and my mom did the most incredible job with
oh,
favors. I had a whole Pinterest board. They took the Pinterest board and made it a reality. So that was lovely. And everything was great. And everything was great for the next few weeks. And I went home for Thanksgiving.
mm-hmm.
It was only me that went home. So I went to Jersey for Thanksgiving, felt her moving a lot the day of Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And
Like more than
then,
her usual, or
yes, yes. And my whole line of thinking was I was so excited and hyped because it was Thanksgiving that she was just reacting to me.
mm,
Had I been maybe educated a bit more on movements,
yes,
I would not have thought that at the
yeah,
time. By that Saturday, I had come back to DC, decorated the whole house for Christmas. And that evening, I was like, you know what? I haven't felt her, but I also know that if you're really active, then sometimes they're not. So I'm like trying to balance. The other day, she was super active. Maybe she's just, a little bit tired today or whatever. Texted my doula, and she encouraged me to call the hospital just to come in and do a scan. And so Aaliyah's father was at his house, and he had work the next day. So
hmm,
firefighters have to get up at like 3:30 in the morning.
right.
So this all happened at around 11 o'clock at night. So my thinking was, I'm not going to wake him. I'm just being a nervous first time mom. I'm just going to go to the hospital and then come back. It's going to be fine. I did not bring anything but my wallet,
Okay.
carrying my cell phone and my wallet, walk right past the hospital bag, right past
Didn't
everything,
bring
go to
any of
my
them.
car, drive myself there, only to be told, oh my gosh, there's no heartbeat. Um, I felt fine the whole time. And that's what started this whole new life that I'm now living.
Oh my gosh. Liz,
Yeah.
about what week were you when you went there?
About 32 weeks. So like right in between 31, 32
Okay.
weeks.
Okay. So you were basically by yourself when you went to the hospital,
Yes.
and they hooked up the monitor to you.
Yes. Yep. So the nurse took me in, and just looking back on it, I walked in and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry to be bothering you
Yeah.
guys with this. I just don't know if what I'm doing is right. And I actually still had to wait about 10 minutes before I was taken back.
Okay.
So then I'm taken back, and the nurse, who I'm actually still close to this day, she's, looking for a heartbeat, and she's like, I don't think this is working. I'm just going to go get the midwife. So of course, stupid me, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll be right here. Not even thinking, not even, and I still sometimes think, did she have a certain look that I just wasn't, because
Mhm.
I knew she knew what was happening. But to me, I was just like, oh, okay. Like, oh, okay.
Were
Came
you
in.
were you worried at all? Like, even going to the hospital? Like, you were like, "Oh, yeah, just checking it out."
I honestly thought that I was just being a nervous Nelly
Okay.
like that, because I was low risk.
Mhm.
Everything had been perfect. All tests are great. She's great. She's a good size. I'm healthy. I was told she was healthy, which in the end she was healthy. Um, so no, and sometimes I struggle with that, because how does a mom not know? Right? And I think a lot of women in our position feel that way. But I had such a perfect pregnancy that whole time. The thought of something being wrong was the furthest thing from my mind,
Mhm. Mhm.
honestly. And then sometimes I'm like, despite reading every book and blog post and article, why don't these things tell you more about what could go wrong?
Yeah.
But I was always told of all the things, oh, this is happening, this is great, this is great, this is great. But we're not educating people on, if this happens, this could mean things are not going so great.
So, when this nurse that you're it sounds like you're quite close to her, which is great. She left the room, right? And to get the midwife to
Yes.
come in. So when the midwife came back in, what happened then?
She tried to find a heartbeat and then, basically just said, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but we can't find a heartbeat. This is going to sound so bad, but this is how I react to most terrible things. I just sat there and I was like, oh, okay. And I think I said, now what do we do? Because I was like, I realized that is shock, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, are you sure? And I think I even said, like, how is that possible? We were like, we had our 20-week scan and it was fine. And I was just confused. And then my second thought was, one, oh my gosh, now I have to call her father and my parents. And also, how do you do this once you found this out?
Yeah.
And I think I said something like, I thought stuff like this only happened. My exact words were, I thought stuff like this only happened in the 1800s. Because I really did think that.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea that this still happened.
And they don't talk about it.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm here to change. So
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I tried to call her dad several times, but I knew by this time it was probably closer to midnight. Well, I knew he was sleeping. And so I called his sister and I was like, this is what just happened. I need you to go wake up your brother. And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, you heard me. That's what happened. I need you to wake him up and get him here now. And the midwife called my doula and I called my mom, and same thing as she was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Because again, it's so late at night too. So I'm like waking people up. I was like, this is what happened. And I'm going to be staying here and delivering a stillborn baby. So just, the rush of emotions that you get, I am not a crier. I try, in crisis situations, I try to stay very in control. And for anyone that has experienced this, control is so important to us because we lost it in that moment. And now you're just like grasping at straws to get it back.
Yeah.
So for me in that moment, I said, look, okay, great. Tell me what we have to do. And I'll talk to myself in my brain. I'll figure out a way to do it. And they gave me the option to leave, which I wanted to take. However, once I actually thought about it for a moment, I decided it was not a good thing for me to be alone driving a vehicle. After hearing something like that, I'm a huge, even before this happened, I'm a huge mental health advocate. I've been involved in a lot of things with that. And I just thought, what if I'm driving and all of a sudden I lose it, like hurt someone else or myself.
Yeah.
So I decided to stay. And then that was on Saturday night, the 28th. And then I delivered her on December 1st at about, what was the exact time? 5:30, 5:20 in the morning.
Wow. So you, like, the way you describe that, it feels like you were super logical. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense. You were very organized and you're like, I gotta work this out. Were you crying?
I lost it. Definitely when her father came in.
Oh, okay.
I pretty much kept it together. They were like, okay, we're going to move you to a room. They offered me a wheelchair. I was like, no, I'll walk. It's fine. Because again, the control thing, right? I was like, nope, I got it. I'll do it. It's fine. They stayed with me in the room until he got there and then gave us some time alone. And yeah, then, we started the process. It was really hard because again, COVID. So, we both got COVID tested. We could be there. We could have one other person.
Oh, okay. That is
Um,
more than a lot of people, actually. So
exactly.
that is a blessing.
Exactly. So what I didn't realize at that time was that, I kind of assumed that after I had Aaliyah, I would be able to have maybe at least one more person in there.
Oh, uh-huh.
We elected to have our doula because, I had built up such a strong relationship
Mhm.
with her. I trusted her to advocate for us. And I didn't know what the heck I was going to have to do. So I wanted her in there. Which meant, unfortunately, that after I had Aaliyah, people like my mom couldn't see her,
Oh, okay.
even after begging, literally even offering to make a donation to the hospital, anything to try to get my mom in there. And they wouldn't budge on that. So
Oh,
that is really hard, I think, for all of us to this day. But in that delivery process, I'm happy. I'm happy, such a weird word, right?
yes.
But I was so comforted by having our doula Jade there because she was able to help and, speak for me when I felt like I couldn't speak or get my thoughts across. She already knew what I was thinking
Mhm.
and was able to steer us in good directions, like making sure we did pictures. Cause at first we were like, no, no, why would we want that? No, it was, no, at first. And also, making sure we spent an appropriate amount of time with her.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that she was there, but it's really tough to think about the fact that, people like my mom were not able to spend time with Aaliyah in the way that we would have wanted them
Yeah,
to.
that's heartbreaking to just yeah, when you're like, "Okay, you get one person, but it's the same person the entire time," and you're oh,
Yeah,
it's just there's so many things about the pandemic that has really just been so, so hard.
exactly.
So hard. Say I just wanna back up and make sure I had the timeline correct. You said that you went to the hospital on the 28th of December.
Mhm.
I mean, sorry, 28th of November. I apologize.
Of November. Yep, yep,
Sorry,
sorry.
sorry.
Of
Okay.
November.
So
And
you
then
and then so you labored all of the this is a long labor process, it seems to me.
so again, my control issues. I still wanted to go through with as much as my birth plan as I could.
Okay, okay.
So they tried, I mean, I think it was probably 24 hours of different interventions that did not involve medication of any sort.
Mhm.
And my body just would not go into labor. It wasn't until so she was sideways.
Mm.
Um, it wasn't until after they turned her. So again, I elected for them to turn her without medication, which I don't advise to anybody. Because it is extremely painful. And then especially with the mental trauma tied into it. It was after that, I think her father took a little break in the hallway, and my doula said to me, I know this isn't what you want, but he cannot look at you keep going through these things without some sort of assistance. If that's really what you want, then you do what you want. But she was looking at him, looking at me, and she was like, if you want to reconsider, it's okay. Everything has changed, right? So you don't have to stick to the exact plan that you
Yeah.
originally wanted. So at that point, I was like, okay, fine. Then I was like, just give me whatever, because I was also at that point asking for a C-section because I was like, my body's not doing
Oh,
anything.
mhm.
We don't want to be in this hospital anymore.
Yep.
And they kind of talked me off that ledge, and her father did too, because they explained, complications, risk for future pregnancies. And if I didn't have to do it, then I probably should not do it. So I said, okay. And I said yes to the epidural. One of the main reasons that I did not want to go the medication route from the start is because I have a pretty bad basketball injury in my back.
Oh.
So my thought with an epidural is literally right where my degenerative disc
Um,
disease is.
yeah.
So I think for years, I just kind of always said, if you ever have to deliver a child, figure out how to do it without an epidural because
Gotcha.
my back injury scares me every day.
Yeah, you're
So
like, "I don't wanna mess with that." It
yeah.
makes total sense.
And they assured me that it would be just fine, which ended up not being true.
Mm,
So I said, as long as you can promise me it's not going to aggravate my injury, fine. And then they gave me the epidural probably, I don't know, it was pretty late at night on, yeah, the day before the first. So, and then that morning is when I have her. And it was really easy. I woke up and I felt,
the
I felt
pressure.
myself delivering her, and then it was super quick.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I could not deliver the placenta.
Oh.
So it was basically stuck, to put it in an easy
Oh.
understand. Yeah. So then I ended up needing surgery. And because I had delivered her pretty much right before shift change, I had to wait hours before I could do that. But that was okay because that ended up being the time that we spent with her.
Okay.
I know some families elect to spend, some even days after delivering. That was not for us.
Mhm.
We wanted an appropriate amount of time where we felt like we could do what we needed to do. And so we were able to do that in between the time of the shift change before my surgery.
Yeah.
So it was a really nice time. It's interesting. We both grew up Catholic, but we are not practicing
Mhm. Mhm.
Catholics. And yet I was like, she has to be baptized, like that. Even as a non-practicing Catholic, that was like just in my mind. My aunt is a a sister currently based in Rome.
Oh, okay.
And so
That's
we
awesome.
called her.
Yeah.
She directed us on how to do it. So we were able to do that, able to spend time. And then I went back for surgery.
Wow, so how much time do you think there was between when you delivered and then when you went
I'm
into
really not,
surgery?
I'm really not sure. Maybe like 2 hours.
Okay. And that felt, I mean, and were you able to get pictures of her at that time also? I mean, that
Yeah.
was one of the things that the doula kind of suggested you
Yep,
guys do.
yep. So my doula did all the pictures, pictures of just her, pictures of us, pictures of each of us holding her.
Mhm.
So we did all of that. That came out well. Looking back, I wish, and at that point my mom was there, but just in the waiting room. She like
Mhm.
barely left the waiting room. At that time, my best friend and her mom had also come down from Jersey. So they were just like all there. I wish I had told someone to come to the house to get an outfit because I
Oh,
already had her outfit. But obviously, you're just not thinking of that stuff in that moment. And yeah, so that would be my one of my big regrets about the pictures. But that's okay. That's all right. We did the pictures, all that, and then I went back for surgery.
oh, wow, that's fast. With your partner, did he get to spend time? Did he hold Aaliyah?
Yeah,
Did he
absolutely.
feel comfortable with that? Because I know some people aren't able to hold their babies,
Yeah.
and just because it is something that is so, I'm not sure if it's scary and or too
Yeah.
emotional. Like there's so many things that people feel.
Yeah, I don't think he was comfortable doing it,
Hmm.
but he
Hmm.
did it, and I am so happy that he did. I think also, and I don't want this to come off not good, but she looked so normal, you
Yeah.
know? I think that had she looked like there was something wrong, it probably would have been much different for both of us,
Mm-hmm.
but she looked like every other baby. So it was just, yeah, it's just so weird. I mean, I was just holding her and looking at her and I was just like, what? How did I get here? After everything was so great, after she looks so great,
Yeah.
how is this what's really happening? And I still don't understand it.
Yeah.
Um, but here we are.
It really is like baffling because you're like, you look like you're just sleeping.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I mean, with the long dark hair. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, that's me. She had some of her father's facial features. Okay, that's him. Yeah, it was just very, very strange. And again, it's also, and I feel like some of the nursing staff didn't know how to act because we were just so even keeled and calm. And so it's like, people, they just don't know. I feel like sometimes if we were more frantic, they may have
Yes.
actually reacted a little bit better. But I feel like it's just so, okay, these people are just eerily calm, cool, and collected for having this traumatic thing happening to them
Right.
right now. So it was very interesting. But the nursing staff was incredible. And the nurse that had told me, the very first nurse when I was there by myself, she came back on her day
Oh.
off
Oh.
to spend time. And another nurse on her day off came back with dinner for us.
Oh, that is
So
so
I couldn't
kind.
eat my whole time during delivery. I could not even keep water down.
Oh.
So I pretty much had not eaten for days, but she brought us dinner, which was just absolutely lovely and certainly out of her way, right? And I
Mm.
was just so grateful to all of them at our hospital.
Oh, it's amazing how much like you're like, oh, the humanity is so good.
Yeah,
Humankind is good. Like,
yeah.
when they come out of the woodwork, that is lovely that they were so
So,
kind to you. So you went back for surgery. Did that go okay? Please tell me that went
so
okay.
yeah. So they, you know, they gave me whatever drug they gave me,
Mhm.
and they're wheeling me back, and I'm looking around and I'm like, is this an all female team? They were like, yeah. And I was so happy about that. I was like, this is amazing. I was like, I love this. It was a team of diverse female doctors and nurses.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, this is a gift from my daughter because this is what I love. So that was good. And mind you, I'm of course on, medication at this time. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just so happy. And then when we went in, they were like, do you want to play any music? I was like, sure. I was like, I know it's not appropriate, but can you please put on Cardi B? They were like, absolutely. So the whole time I had this surgery, someone had their cell phone right next to me and they put Cardi B on Spotify and I listened to her during this relatively short surgery, but I
Mhm.
did start hemorrhaging during it
Oh,
and I
shoot.
did lose quite a bit of blood, but
Oh, okay.
I like barely missed the line for a transfusion.
Okay.
But there were times I remember them talking to me during the surgery and asking, are you okay? Like something was wrong. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm fine. And so afterwards, when they were explaining to my doula and her dad and, kind of me, although I was a little bit out of it, they were like, she was losing blood and yet still talking like nothing was happening. So I was like, okay,
Okay.
because I was listening to Cardi B with my all female team of doctors
Yeah.
and nurses.
You're like, I got this.
So, and then because I had still had the epidural, they said, if it doesn't wear off, you're going to have to stay another night, to which we were absolutely like, no. So her dad helped me move around the room to try to, at this point, our doula had left
Mhm.
and he was helping me because we were like, we got to get out of here.
Yep.
So, just helping me wear off the epidural and
Mhm.
then we left.
Oh, that sounds rough. Like that you were in the hospital for a long time.
I know. Yeah, sometimes it felt like forever, especially when I was trying to just do everything on my own. But yeah, when I look back on it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, that I wish I hadn't been so stubborn, but I was, and we were in there way longer than we should have
Yeah.
been.
Yeah, that was that
Yeah.
I'm like I was there for like a little on I think 24 hours or something. I was like, "Get me out of here. I got to get." I just could
Yeah,
not handle it. I could not handle it.
I know. Yeah, neither could we. And her father stayed the whole time. And at certain points, I said, please leave, like
Yeah.
go take a shower or go have a friend come meet you, we're right at GW campus. I was like, have a friend meet you,
Yeah.
something. And he left one time for like an hour, but otherwise he was
He was
just right
there.
there in the chair next to me whole time. So
Oh,
yeah.
it's just so hard. You guys headed home after that.
Mhm.
And how was that? Coming back home.
Yeah, it was interesting. So that first night, I actually, because mind you, I hadn't seen my mom at all,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like
The
she
entire
could
time.
not even come back to see me. So when we left, he dropped me off at the hotel that she and my best friend and her mom were staying at.
Okay.
And, I said to him, I was like, you need to go home and just, decompress. We'll meet up later. I need to spend time with my mom. And so I did. And, they were like, no one knows how to act
How to
around you.
act.
So I said, first of all, I want to shower. We're in a very nice luxury hotel. I was like, I just want to stand in the shower and use the nice lotions and stuff. And then I just would like to go out to dinner and drink some wine. And so we did that. I was like, still a little wobbly on my feet, like
Mm-hmm.
not able to move. And at this point, I was also realizing, oh, my back feels a little strange, but I'm sure it'll go away. That's what I was hoping for at the time. It did not go away. But I was like, I just want like a really nice dinner, and I can tell you everything that happened. And if I have a breakdown, I have a breakdown. If I keep it together in that moment, then I keep it together. And I'm sure I'll have the breakdown later when I'm back in the
Mm-hmm.
hotel
Mm-hmm.
room. So, they were like, okay, great. Like whatever, wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do, we'll do it. And so, yeah, spent the day with that evening with them. And then the next day, spent the day with my mom, and just, kind of a lot of periods of silence, right? And, also thinking about how her father was doing, and,
Mm-hmm.
it just, yeah, it's, it's not fun, obviously, as you know, but
Yeah.
it's just the after part in a lot of ways ended up becoming so much harder than that time in the hospital with everything that ended up coming after. So,
Yeah. Because you're left with like, oh, I was pregnant for 32 weeks.
yeah.
And
And my
everybody's,
home was bye bye baby. It looked, I had the
yeah.
what is it, the four moms thing was like right when you open the door.
Mm-hmm.
I had the high chair already in a
Mm-hmm.
corner. The nursery upstairs was done. We did vintage Winnie the Pooh. So
Oh,
that was all done.
yeah.
I had the bassinet already in the bedroom. So it's just there was no escaping
Yep.
everything.
Yeah.
And I appreciate my mom and my friend and her mom, they were like, do you want us to go clear everything out? What do you want us to do? And I
Mm-hmm.
said, no, I'll do it on my own time. Which I did, which I think was the best choice for me.
That's good.
I was like, no, it's fine. And yeah, just trying to figure out that after part is
It's so hard and so tricky and so because then you just like I don't know about you, but I would find times when I'd like be doing great, doing fine, clipping
yeah,
along. Then all of a sudden you're just like bawling and you're like, where did that
hit
come
a
from?
wall. Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I think just my personality, even before this, it's like I will act like something is okay for so long, and then I'll just hit a wall, and I privately have
yeah.
meltdowns. I'm not a public meltdown person. I'm
Hmm.
a 2 a.m., nobody's in my house, no lights are on meltdown person. So yeah, that definitely happened a lot, but I totally relate with those moments of, oh, I think I'm having a good day. I'm accomplishing things. I'm doing things. And
Yeah.
then you just hit that wall, which is totally normal.
It is. I mean, like that's the way grief works. Cause like you can't be crying and grieving and like all in it all the time. Your body just would shut down. And that's what happens. You break down. You hit a wall and you break down.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys decide to do sort of a burial, cremation? Did you what was I know there's always this they give this pack of paper to you and you're
Mhm.
supposed to figure it all out and it's like the worst thing ever. So
Yeah.
how did that look for you guys? What decisions did you and her father make
Yeah.
at that time?
So we knew we wanted to do cremation,
Mhm.
and we did not look it up. My mom and my friend, they looked it up. It was also important for us to use a funeral home, a Black owned funeral home.
Mhm.
So we found one very close to my house, and my mom set up, the appointment for us to go, and we did, and we, picked out her urn and had initialed, and we have two, so we have a larger one, and then we also have a small heart,
Oh,
and yeah, both of them have her initials. And the funeral home was amazing. They handled everything very well. So we're very grateful and appreciative for that.
it is so hard. And so I always appreciate funeral homes that they just do a nice job of like helping you through this
Yeah.
really hard process. So
Yeah.
that's great. And did you guys end up having a funeral or memorial service? Or was that just something like you went there, you planned it, and then you came and picked her up?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. It was COVID, and
Mm,
honestly, I I didn't know if either of us could handle doing some sort of memorial service.
right.
I think with our grief, we're both insanely private people with displaying our grief,
Mhm.
and having a some sort of memorial service for us just would have been too much.
Yeah. Not and
Yeah.
also just not who you guys are. So
Yeah. Yeah. And in the future, especially how we open, thinking about 2 years, I mean, I could see myself doing something further
mm,
down the line, or
mhm.
even just, I don't want to say lucked out because I had COVID, but for her first year birthday anniversary,
Yeah.
I had COVID. So nobody
Oh,
could be with me,
you legit had
which to
COVID.
me
Yeah.
was the best possible thing that could have happened. Even though I know a lot of other people were kind of like, wanted to spend the day with me or wanted to do
Yeah.
something for her. For me, in year one, that was the best thing that could have happened.
Mhm.
So for year one, I was able to just reflect on the day and plan for the future in ways that I am choosing to remember her. And I think further down the line, though, I will, and I think he will also be open to doing something more,
Cool.
but for the beginning stages,
It
not
it
not for us.
it was fine. It was fine, and it was good.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I mean, and that's the thing. You have to do what is right for your family because and not feel guilty about like the comparison because there's so much even in something so like difficult and hard, there's still comparison. Everyone's like, "Oh, I should have done that." And you're like, "You did what you needed to do. It was fine. It's fine."
Yeah. From family makeup to relationship to the way I handle things, I understand that I'm definitely not a conventional person. So, this was just another thing where it's like, okay, it doesn't make sense for a majority of people, but for Liz, it makes sense.
Yes. You're like, "This was good. That was good."
Yeah.
I'm wondering as did anybody tell you anything that would, be the cause of Aaliyah's stillbirth? Did you
Yeah.
guys do an autopsy, or did you have any doctors or midwives kinda give you something to indicate some like, there was an issue? Does that make sense? Because like,
Yep. Yep.
I want answers. Like, I'm a, like, scientific, "Give me what happened so I can either prevent it or whatever it happens to be." Did you
Yep.
guys inquire about that? Did you get some information or answers?
So when the choice of having an autopsy was presented to us in the
Mhm.
hospital, we were both, I would say I was probably more for it. Her father certainly was not. But after they saw her and kind of looked at her, the midwife that was with us at that time said, I'm not sure an autopsy is going to tell you anything,
Mm.
because some things that would indicate that an autopsy would be helpful, we're not seeing. She looked fine. So, of course, the option was presented. We ultimately said no, which I'm happy we said no. About a week later, I had scheduled a meeting with an MFM that had kind of looked over everything, looked over my stuff, looked over her stuff. And he even said, I don't think an autopsy would have given us any
Mm,
information.
okay.
Although he also said at that time, the first thing he said was, and I will speak more about this in a moment. He said, your placenta was on the smaller size, but that didn't matter because Aaliyah was big.
Yeah, she was growing just fine.
She was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't, yes, your placenta was small, or sorry, the placenta was small, but she wasn't, so it was fine. So that's kind of what I went with because I'm
Okay.
talking to a professional, right?
Yeah.
So, and I certainly don't know anything. I was like, oh, okay. And it was basically just presented as sometimes this happens and there is no reason. And the chance of it happening again is like 0. So don't worry about that. And don't try to get pregnant for 6 months. But then after 6 months, feel free to get pregnant again. And I'm sure it won't happen this next time. So I'm like, okay. And I think also it was just so early after losing her. My brain was not functioning the way it should be.
Yeah.
So I just kind of said, okay. And I told my friends and family, she just died. Like, there's no reason. I think some accepted that and some were like, are you sure? Like, how is there just no reason? And I said, look, if I think about it too much, it's going to not be good for my mental health. I'm trusting these doctors that have been practicing for years. So at that time, I had just accepted it as she just died and we don't know why. And that was it. And then it wasn't until further down the line, and I can either talk about this more when I start talking about some organizations I'm with, but I was put in contact with Dr. Kleiman at Yale,
Mm-hmm.
who studies placental pathology research.
Yeah.
That's his thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to a couple moms on a Zoom chat. And when they asked me what had happened, or if I knew what had happened, I shared with them exactly what I just shared, what the MFM said. And they were all like, no, small placenta? No. You have to talk to Dr. Kleiman at Yale. We'll give you his email, everything. This is exactly what he studies. So I'm like, okay. So I contact him and I explained to his assistant the situation. She said, we'll contact the hospital, get the placenta slides. He'll look at everything. You can set up an appointment, whatever. This happened probably in the spring by the time everything was sorted out.
Yeah.
And the reason that Aaliyah passed away is because the placenta could no longer provide for her the way that it should have. And the reason I corrected myself earlier in saying the placenta is because Dr. Kleiman really drills it into moms that you are not in control of the placenta. It is not yours. It is not Aaliyah's. It is just the placenta. And so when you put a my or her with it kind of places blame a little bit, even if you're not immediately thinking it.
Yeah.
So he explained that essentially she ran out of gas.
Oh.
And so there was nothing wrong with her.
Mm-hmm.
It was the size of the placenta.
Yeah.
And so then we get into this whole thing. Well, why was I told that everything with me is perfect?
Yeah.
And yet my body had a small placenta that ultimately caused my daughter to die. I was just so confused by that. And it's because it's not being studied the way that it should be studied.
Yeah.
Which I have a lot to say about.
Yes. And I'm very excited to hear a little bit more about that. Because even though we've been giving birth for what, millions of years, birth has been happening for so long. And when things don't go right, I feel like there's not enough research or there's not enough data to say this is what's happening. This is how we can prevent it. I'm just excited to hear more about that. But I'm going to be completely honest. I would be so mad if I heard that. I'm sure you were livid. Yeah.
Well, and I'm choosing to take my anger and push it into advocacy.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm sure what I'm about to say will relate with a lot of people. I mean, at times after experiencing this type of loss, you feel so unpredictable. Like there were times that I felt I could I don't want to say hurt someone, but I was just so
Hmm.
angry that I could like smash something. I could just destroy everything in my house. I could take a bat to my own car, anything. Like that's just the rage that you feel after this.
Yep.
And I'm trying my best to take that rage and kind of take it take it out on other people, like certain medical societies and stuff that aren't doing their job to protect us and our babies.
Yeah,
Because families are not making it home safely together when maybe an additional test or two would allow them to.
exactly. Yes. Well, excited to hear that, have that conversation also. Liz, I tell me as we close up this discussion, I have a couple of questions, last
Mhm.
questions. The first one is, tell me, you talked about Aaliyah's really dark hair
Yeah.
and thick hair, which is awesome, but and that she looks totally normal. How much did she weigh? Like how big was she
She
when she
weighed
was
about 4 pounds.
okay?
And to be honest, her length always escapes me. I don't know why. But she was tall. I
She
mean,
was long.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
she was long.
Awesome. And will you tell me a little bit, anything else you want to remember about Aaliyah and what she means to you?
You know, my gosh. I mean, I guess there's so many things.
So many things.
I think her father and I are very opinionated, um, strong people. And one way he would always describe our child when I was pregnant, this is before we knew a boy or girl, but certainly after knowing it was a girl, was that she's going to be so spicy. That's his word. She's going to be spicy. She's going to give us a run for our money. She's going to be spicy. We're going to need to figure it out, all that stuff. And so, even though she's not here with us, I think everything that's happened since her being here and being brought into this world, although not in the way that we would have preferred,
Yeah.
she is very spicy. I think that her spice is certainly living on in all of these things that I'm trying to do. And I really think I am not a religious person. I'm a more spiritual person. And I do think that she is just working through me, and even some of my mannerisms and stuff have changed, and I think it's because it's her personality.
Oh.
So I think her spicy personality that we knew she would have is certainly alive and well.
Yes, it is leaving its mark on this world. So that is wonderful. Liz, thank you so much for sharing that beautiful story of Aaliyah. I'm so sorry for your loss. That's all there is to it. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. I mean, I'm a sorority girl. So sisterhood is important to me. This is a sisterhood that none of us obviously want to be in.
Nope.
However, it is one of the strongest sisterhoods. And I think if it didn't have that component to it, I don't know how any of us would survive this. So thank you, because you are a part of that, especially in doing what you do with this podcast and your outreach in general.
Oh yeah, yes, I feel like this is our way of our son's this is his way of leaving his
Yes,
mark on the world. And so, yeah,
exactly.
we can help each other out. So, yes, that's a beautiful way of putting it. It's a sisterhood. It's a some place that we don't definitely want to be, but we're in this together. So, thank you again, Liz, for your time.
Thank you.